we've had a number of different insurrectionists go down legally for a number of different crimes. But the most significant one, both in terms of the crime, but also what it could represent for Roger Stone of all people, actually just happened. This involves Joshua James, an Oath Keepers member who pleaded guilty in federal court in Washington this week to helping lead a group that prosecutors say sent 2 tactically equipped teams into the Capitol and organized a cache of weapons in a hotel just outside the city. So madness, what they were engaged in. But what's interesting is who they were engaged with. So in this photo, you're gonna see 2 people. You will immediately recognize Roger Stone, but you might not recognize in his very cool tactical gear, Joshua James, who functioned as like an advisor slash bodyguard, accomplice to what Roger Stone was doing. Anyway, we'll get back to Roger Stone and what this might mean for him. But James is an Army veteran who was injured fighting in Iraq, indicted on seditious conspiracy, which is not a charge that any of the previous people who'd gone down for what happened on the 6th had previously done. 10 others have been indicted in the same way, including the founder of the Oath Keepers, Stuart Rhodes, who we can't not show you this photo of Stuart Rhodes. Weird that he didn't turn out to be the good guy in the story. But anyway, Joshua James also pleaded guilty not just to seditious conspiracy, to 1 count of obstructing an official proceeding, and he may face the stiffest sentence of anyone yet from January 6th. But what is fascinating is he has agreed to cooperate with federal investigators, including testify in front of a grand jury. So big charges. Others in the Oath Keepers have gone down for multiple charges as well. But he was very much in a position on the 6th and in the days leading up to it to know what was being done, what was intended, including what Roger Stone, one of like the chief Trump goons, was up to at that time. And now he's apparently cooperating. What do you think, Brett?
Just like straight up imagery from the get-go. If people are talking about how Putin is acting like a James Bond villain, and on the international stage you have these like big budget murderer types.
Yeah.
Roger Stone is like a 1960s Adam West Batman villain. Like he's wearing stupid hats like that. He's got henchmen that like are wearing it's an interesting look to have the eyeglass and the eye patch. Like you feel like you transition to monocles at that point. Like it's just so strange and actually kind of an insult to the person who only has one eye that they got to wear 2 glasses. It's very strange to me. But in terms of all this, like the most fascinating element of it is that people have completely moved past, like there's slap on the wrist consequences for these folks generally, who launched an attack on the democratic process that everyone historically has bragged about America having, which is the peaceful transfer of power. These folks, I'm not gonna say like metaphorically fought, they physically fought. They overpowered police officers, they invaded the Capitol, they did all these horrible things. And typically it's just a slap on the wrist. In this situation, the extra layer of fascination is when just bellicose rhetoric transitions into like the actual language of invasion and militarism. They were in stack formation when they came in. That is part of the accusation against the guy and evidence that's been submitted to reach this kind of agreement is that they were using military tactics. And for all the rhetoric on the other side calling like Democrats who support Black Lives Matter or defund the police or any possible criticism of America as defined in the First Amendment, essentially as un-American traitors. What are these? Yeah. These are literal traitors. These are seditious traitors. These are people who used military tactics, shouting for the murder of the vice president to overthrow the mechanisms of democracy in America that we, according to those who want to make it great, should hold sacred.
Yeah. Well, and everything that you just said, obviously horrifying. Maybe even a little bit more horror on top is that some potentially saw even all of this as just the prelude to even worse things to come. So very quickly, I want to break down a few important parts of this that you have to know coming out of this story. So now all the charges Joshua James pled guilty to, he's also being accused of tampering with documents to hide his communications with the Oath Keepers. In fact, in the court documents, you can see him instructing person 15 on the 8th of January to, quote, make sure that all signal comms about the op have been deleted and burned. Okay, who is person 15? Is it Roger Stone? Is it another Oath Keeper? I don't know, but he does. And he is now cooperating, supposedly. So we might find out about that. But I want you to know a little bit more about what they were intending. So the preparation for the assault by the Oath Keepers on the Capitol began 2 days after the election. So they had been prepping for that for a long time. Rhodes, the head of the Oath Keepers, allegedly told his followers, quote, to refuse to accept the election result and stated, we aren't getting through this without a civil war. Now, I do not think that he meant like a riot at the Capitol. That seems broader. Now, there's 2 months of communications in the indictment between him, Rhodes, and other Oath Keepers, including James, in which, quote, Rhodes outlined a plan to stop the lawful transfer of presidential power, including preparations for the use of force. Rhodes says everything that happened at the Capitol on the 6th, totally not his order. He had been prepping for it for multiple months, but they weren't there because of him. James, in the plea agreement, agreed that Rhodes, quote, instructed him and others to be prepared and called upon to use lethal force if necessary to keep Trump in office. So the head of the Oath Keepers is like, no, this is totally cool. We weren't planning anything. But now one who's cooperating with law enforcement is like, no, the plan was always to kill people, to do whatever is necessary to keep Trump in power. So God only knows what will come from this. And especially Roger Stone, he was totally tied in with all those guys. Did he just not know anything about what was going on? He wasn't involved. He certainly wasn't like a medium for communication between them and Donald Trump and his team or anything like that, I'm sure. But maybe we'll find out soon.
Yeah, it's all fun and games until a government gets overthrown. And if and their whole legal argument, from Roger Stone to Donald Trump to Fox News to Tucker Carlson, is until they accomplish what is obviously their goal of changing America into something that the original charter of America expressly forbade, their defense is, I'm just joshing in a legal.
Exactly.
I'm just kidding. And then, and that's it. And that is all you need to know about rhetoric in America these days. It's all entertainment. It's all WWE until it's WW3.
Did you just make that up, or did you prep? Either way, it's good.
Just now came up with it.
That is good. Scary, but good. Which is how I describe TDR. For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.